Well, hello there, challengees, and welcome to the Always Better Challenge Show, the show designed to help you take steps today that lead to a better and happier tomorrow. I'm your humble host, Joe Bedford, and before we get started, as always, I like to remind you of three favors I'd like to ask, if we can call it that. First of all, I would like to ask you to please consider subscribing to the show if you've not done so already. Second of all, I would like to encourage you to sign up for our free daily motivational emails, and you can do those at our website, which is abetterchallenge.com. Those will also include links to the most recent video show as well as the most recent audio podcast version of the show. And the third thing I would like to ask for you to please consider doing is to rate and review the show if you are a podcast listener. This really just helps so much in broadening the reach of the show, making the show show up higher in the search results. Really what I'm going for here is I'm trying to extend the reach of the show. I want to reach more people because hoping that the show helps people that watch and listen. I want to help as many people as I can. So please help me in that regard. And that's the three things that I ask. So now, as always, we are going to start off with a quote / topic introduction. Excuse me. Today's quote comes from Norman Vincent Peale, and the quote is, "Believe in yourself. Have faith in your abilities. Without a humble but reasonable confidence in your own powers, you cannot be successful or happy." So yes, today we are going to talk about self-confidence, the importance of self-confidence, why it's important to be confident, and then also some ways to improve our self-confidence, as well as some resources. I've got some great books to mention to you that I recommend. So first of all, the first question, as I said, is why is it important to have self-confidence? And in explaining this, well, in researching for this show, I came across a great article. And this article was written by Craig Jarrow, and it's entitled 10 Reasons Why Confidence Leads to Success. And I saw this on Craig's website, which is timemanagementninja.com. timemanagementninja.com. I found that obviously a great resource and that I definitely used it for the show here today. And so I definitely encourage you to check out Craig's website as well, timemanagementninja.com. So as I stated, Craig gives 10 reasons why confidence leads to success. The first is that self-confidence gives you the drive to start things, whereas if you don't have a lot of self-confidence, you might not ever begin projects, goals, tough things. You might be afraid to try tough things. So there's one way right there where self-confidence is going to benefit you. Second, the ability to stand up for yourself. Obviously, it's going to be difficult to achieve success in any goal if you fold at the first obstacle that somebody puts in your way. So the ability to stand up for yourself is going to help you to see these things through to success. The third is the ability to say no. And this is something that we've talked about in previous shows, how important it is to be able to say no. The one way to look at this is if you for everything that you say yes to, you're saying no to all the other things that you can't do as a result of the thing you said yes to. So saying no to things, you're not taking on unnecessary work. You're not taking on work that's not serving you, that's not helping you reach your goals. And so that enables you to say yes to the things that are. So this is a very important skill to have. Next is that self-confidence gives you the ability to say yes. The flip side of that is that you are not going to miss opportunities. When those opportunities come along, you will not be afraid to say yes. How many folks have passed on opportunities because of negative self-talk, poor self-confidence, or they say, oh, I'm not worthy of this opportunity, I'm not good enough for this opportunity, I'm not, worthy of this job, whatever it is. And, so we can talk ourselves out of success that way by not having the ability to say yes to opportunity when it presents itself. Next is that self-confidence overcomes fear. And as I've said so many times on the show, fear can at least lead to complete paralysis. It just stops you if you let it. And so having the self-confidence to overcome your fear rather than letting it stop you. Next is that self-confidence gives you a belief in yourself. I believe I've quoted Henry Ford before where he says, whether you think you can or whether you think you can't, you're right. So you have to be able to believe that you can to do it. So to succeed, you have to believe that you can succeed. You have to have that belief in yourself. Next on Craig's list of 10 reasons why self-confidence leads to success is that it enables you to set the bar high enough. Lack of confidence leads to weak goals, if any goals at all. Whereas if you've got self-confidence, it's going to give you the ability from within to set a high bar, to set a high goal. And obviously you can't achieve any success for yourself that you can't first envision. So if you can't envision setting the bar that high, you certainly cannot reach that high level. Next is that self-confidence helps you to stretch your limits. First of all, it gives you the confidence to be very honest about what your limits are, your supposed limits, to know where I really would rather say where your current limits are, and then to test those limits. And by testing those limits, of course, you can push those limits up. You can increase those limits. The very act of testing them is going to move them forward and is going to help you to improve and increase. And next is that self-confidence gives you the confidence to ask questions, and what an important confidence this is. Questions, they're helpful in so many ways. They're how you gather information. And then there are also the questions that you're not afraid to ask. And I'm quoting, I had a quote pop into my head here, which is that if you never ask, the answer will always be no. I'm not sure who said that, but it gives you the confidence to ask for the order, quote unquote, if it's a sales situation, but it gives you the confidence to ask for what you want, to ask for help, to ask for somebody to look at your proposal, whatever it is. Self-confidence gives you the confidence to ask questions, either to gain information or to gain someone's buy-in. And the final reason that Craig Jarrow gives why self-confidence leads to success is it gives you a belief in winning. More important, what I'm really trying to say here is it gives you a belief in your own ability to win. And without that belief, you're not going to achieve that. So those are Craig Jarrow's 10 reasons why confidence leads to success. One final shout out, his website, timemanagementninja.com. Please visit that if you have found these 10 reasons that I've given helpful to you. So we have hopefully established why it is important to have self-confidence. Now let's look at how we can actually work on and improve our self-confidence. So the first thing that we can do is ask ourselves, what are the obstacles? What is standing in my way from having self-confidence? Knowledge is the first key to action. We can't fix what we don't acknowledge. And the other point I want to make as far as obstacles to self-confidence is that Everyone might have different obstacles. Everyone, when they go through this exercise of trying to determine what those obstacles are, might see different, might get different results. But here's the thing. I would be almost willing to bet that 99%, if not 100%, of those obstacles do not exist anywhere in the world except in your own mind, between your own ears. I'll bet that's where the obstacles are. And guess what? The obstacles that are in your mind are under your control. You can choose consciously whether to believe those stories in your mind or whether to discard those stories in your mind. Do those stories serve you? If they do not, you can say, and because the other thing is, if it's just a story in your mind, it doesn't necessarily have any basis in reality if it's just in your own mind. So look at what the obstacles are. First step to overcoming them. If there are any actual physical obstacles in the real world, I'd love to know. If anyone comes up with any of those, I'd like to know what they are, because I'll bet that almost 100% of these are going to exist only in your mind. The next way that we can improve our self-confidence is to, I've said this before, eliminate negative self-talk. Negative self-talk serves absolutely no purpose. I will come right out and say that. I challenge anyone to dispute that. It serves no purpose except to you're discouraging yourself a lot of times before you even start. You're telling yourself negative stories about yourself, again, which probably only exist in your own mind. This does not serve you. It does not serve you to belittle yourself. It does not serve you to not have belief in your own abilities. It is absolutely worthless in my opinion, and I see so many people doing it and unnecessarily sabotaging themselves, and it's something I hate to see. If I don't accomplish one thing with my show other than encouraging people to quit the negative self-talk, to knock it off, then I've done something. Now, and of course, I'm not saying necessarily that you can 100% root it out. These thoughts pop up in your mind. It happens. I'm not, exempt from this. This happens to me. A negative thought will pop into my mind, but I've trained myself that as soon as I catch myself doing that, I put it down. I'm like, no, I don't believe that. I don't have to believe that. I'm not going to tell myself that. I'm not going to let that be the thoughts in my mind. I'm going to put that thought to the side because it does not serve me. The next way that we can improve our self-confidence is to focus on the positive. How many times have I talked about this idea? So many things about, optimism, how important an optimistic mindset is. And yes, we're talking once again about mindset, which, as I've said, is one of the most important things, one of the most important tools that you have to achieve success and happiness is adjusting your own mindset. And again, the great news is this is something that you have control over. This is something that you can work on and improve day by day by day. Improve your own mindset. Focus on the positive. Celebrate your accomplishments, no matter how small. Give yourself an attaboy on those when you do something, when you check something off of your list. Accept compliments. I talked about this actually in the episode, I believe, on good manners and good etiquette. When someone says something nice about you, say thank you. Don't argue with them, because arguing with them is just another way of perpetuating this negative self-talk where you're not giving yourself permission to have good qualities that other people would compliment you on. Say thank you. Don't argue with them. Write out your positives. How's that for a good idea for building your self-confidence? Write them down on paper. Write down things about yourself that you like. That's a way to focus on those things. Focus on the positive. Have an optimistic mindset about yourself, all things. Another way that you can improve your self-confidence is to connect with people who believe in and support you, and to, draw self-confidence from that. This goes to what I've talked about so many times, Jim Rohn's quote of that you are the sum or the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. So spend time with people who are supportive, who believe in you, who love you, your family members, your friends who love you and believe in you and support you. Surround yourself with that and draw confidence from that. And I've sort of mingled, I guess, too here, because my next one is to connect with other confident people. Again, the Jim Rohn idea. Again, the idea of being the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. If you want to be more self-confident, then surround yourself with other self-confident people. Simple as that. Other positive people, and distance yourself from the negative ones. Simple as that. The next tip I'm going to give for improving your own self-confidence is to set yourself a challenge. Set yourself a goal. Make it a tough goal. And again, yes, we're revisiting the same themes so often in this show. It's because these same themes come up over and over, no matter what it is we're working on. All this stuff is part of a big picture, and everything helps everything else, if that makes sense as a way of putting it. So set yourself a challenge, because as you head down the road of achieving that challenge, you're going to have successes, and nothing breeds confidence like success. It builds on itself. A small success gives small confidence, which will lead you to the next bigger success, which will lead to bigger confidence, and so on and so forth, rinse and repeat. That's how it works. So set yourself a challenge. And the final tip that I want to give for improving your self-confidence is to take care of yourself, which goes with what I just said about how all this stuff plays on each other and works on each other. It's hard to have a good, confident mindset if you're not taking care of yourself on a more basic level, if you're not eating well, if you're not exercising, not taking care of your physical well-being, getting enough sleep, enough good quality sleep. These are all things I've talked about before, I know. Eliminating bad habits. If alcohol overindulgence is a bad habit. Any bad habits that you have that are standing in the way of your well-being, those, addressing those is going to help with your confidence. It all counts. Everything counts. Everything that we do counts, and everything that we do works together to create a good whole, or bad things to create a bad whole, which is the last thing, of course, that we want. So we're wrapping up here. Looks like this is going to be a little shorter episode than normal. Looks like we're not going to be at 30 minutes. That's interesting, because I had about the same number of notes that I normally do. I hope this means that maybe I'm being a little more concise, being a little more on track. So that's a good thing. That's the positive mindset that I'm going to have on that development. So before we wrap up, as I said, I wanted to provide you with some resources that you can use that are in aiding our goal of working on our self-confidence here. So I've got 5 books that I want to mention that are around this topic. Probably doesn't surprise longtime viewers and listeners to the show to know that the first one I'm going to mention is from Brian Tracy. I think everybody knows that Brian is a huge mentor of mine. I think I have to go ahead and say he's my top mentor. He's the first one that I encountered on my own personal development journey back in the 80s when I was a young adult, and somebody that I've continued to look to this day. So Brian has a book called The Power of Self-Confidence. I'm going to put that as my number 1 recommendation in the book category. The second one is a book called The 21-Day Self-Confidence Challenge. I love the idea of a 21-day challenge. I think that makes it so many things. I love deadlines, and a 21-day challenge gives a nice framework. And I like the idea of, okay, over the next 3 weeks, we're going to have actionable steps to improve our self-confidence. So that's my second recommendation. My third one is a book by Jen Sincero, and I love the title of the book, not to mention the content within. It's called You Are a Badass. Gotta love that. My fourth book is by Russ Harris, and it's called The Confidence Gap. My fifth book is by Kamal Ravikant. I hopefully pronounced that correctly. And that book is called Love Yourself Like Your Life Depends on It. And of course, the obvious thing follow up there is to say that because it does. So those are 5 resources that I'd like to offer to you. There are going to be links down below where you can purchase any of these 5 books that you would like to from Amazon. And full disclosure, these are affiliate links, meaning that if you do purchase through these links, that is going to help out the show. And I want to stress that that is at no additional cost to you. That's the same. You pay the same price for the books that you would pay if you just went on Amazon yourself and bought them. And of course, that's an option for you as well if you don't want to support the show. No, that'll be okay. I recommend these books regardless. So that's our show for today. Self-confidence, why it's important, ways to work on it, and a few books that you can read if you would like to do further study on this topic. That's it. Thank you, as always, so much for watching the show. Really quick, I want to remind you of the 3 things that I'm trying to remind everyone. Please subscribe to the show if you haven't already. Please consider signing up for our free daily motivational emails. You can do that at our website, which is abetterchallenge.com. You can also use alwaysbetterchallenge.com, but I got the shorter version, hoping that would be easier for folks. And then the third thing is to please rate or review the podcast if you are a podcast listener. So that's it for this time. Thank you so much for watching or listening to the Always Better Challenge show. I'm your humble host, Joe Bedford. Until next time, it's time to go out there and make it happen.